So years, and guacamole is just something that I recently turned into my product, my brand, because I just feel because I decided that it's something that I should bring to people, and it's a really healthy food. So it's important to know how healthy it is. Just the avocados alone, to start one today. It's 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 one of the best sources of nourishment. Really, it's a very alkaline nourishment that fills you up with healthy fats that last a long time. So that's the avocado. Another important ingredient is limes, and just teaching about healthy food and raw food and how to use food to heal. I find that limes are one of the most powerful foods because we are chronically dehydrated. So limes take care of that. Same thing with tomatoes and onions, but tomatoes are also special because they especially help hydrate and build up the lymphatic system. So that helps you detox. So I usually make guacamole in like an hour or like an hour and a half. So today we're gonna do it in about half an hour. Okay. Hello. All right, we're gonna be right at the action.
Thank you.
So everything is basically done on the cutting board for the most part, and there's no cooking involved, but it still takes time because we're making a high quality food. Um, I'm gonna get their angle right. Cool. I was gonna have someone come over to hold the camera, but I live with my grandma and she doesn't want anyone over. So that's too bad that things are that way. So I like to start with the tomato. So take notes, guys. We're gonna start by dicing up the tomato. Very important step. Unless you don't want tomatoes in your guacamole, because guacamole is very customizable. So we're gonna cut it and remove the seeds. The way we remove seeds is you take something to put it in. And we want to just keep that out of the guacamole in order to make it nice and thick instead of watery. So there's a few ways to remove seeds. You can kind of squeeze it gently so that it comes out, or you can just like pretty much use your finger and just get in there and just like this kind of seeds right here. Basically the seeds are just the watery part, so you just scoop out all the watery stuff. No. Ở chỗ class. Ở chỗ上堂，我而家教。我搞 class。So. No， 冇人啊！我而家教人。係啊。So it's usually a quick process. You just scoop it up as much as you can. And what you have is the tomato seeds. See here, there it is. So when I make my guacamole for customers, I like to make it in what I consider a laboratory setting, so nothing really goes in except for the ingredients. My hands are clean and I don't touch anything else. So that's the kind of practice that you want to use with raw foods because you're not cooking anything. So there's no way to sanitize it. You just keep it sanitary from the get-go. So I'm now, after I cut the tomato in half, and you have to cut it a certain way so you can take out the seeds. It's pretty easy. You have the stem side, so you just cut it like that. So we continue to slice it into thinner slices, and then we'll use these thin slices, and we'll dice it by first cutting it, what's it called? Cutting it into strips. I'll show you this as well. One thing you want is a really sharp knife, because if you don't have a sharp knife, you won't cut anything. So these are tomato strips. We want to keep the strips in one direction. This continues to be strips like that, so that you can cut it the other way and make diced tomatoes. Wow. Okay. So I think the smaller that you dice it, the better experience you have, as long as you don't mash up the tomatoes or like squish them. So if you squish them, they might just dissolve in your guacamole. So I'm going to use one more bowl in order to put all the ingredients other than the avocado. And then you want to get a really big bowl for mashing the avocados, which is later. But first we'll use a small bowl that's big enough for your dehydrated tomatoes. Out the seeds. Put it on the side and take an onion. For this recipe, we'll use half or even less than an onion. Normally, I would use exactly a third of an onion for one avocado. And let's go there. So, how to like prep an onion? Cut it in half and then remove the skin. Also, feel free to drink your tomato seeds. Just a half onion. We're going to cut off the top part, but we're going to leave the root part on so that we can get to dicing the onion. So you can take note of this. The way that I usually dice an onion is I cut it like this. I just cut it right through here a few times. So this is what it looks like. You cut it like that, but you leave the root part on so that it holds it together. So you literally just cut all the way through the onion except for the part or the root. So you cut that lengthwise as thin as you can, like cut it into many little strips. And again, onions definitely, I feel that the thinner that you cut it, the better, as long as you don't just crush it up into little bits or don't try to mince it, just try to slice it as thin as small as possible. So when you cut it lengthwise, it's like this. This is how you dice an onion. It's just attached only by the root. Anything else, we'll just slice it up a bit. So the next step, after you have your onion like this, you start from the other side, the side that's not the root, and just cut it lengthwise. Now I haven't sharpened my knife in a long time, so it'll also make this part a little more complicated. Does that? So that's why everything is easier and safer with a sharp knife. Nothing more dangerous than a dull knife. So remember that, especially with guacamole, I'm gonna have good tools. So the onions, I'll just put it together with the tomatoes and mix everything in at the end. I might be almost out of battery. Give me 1 second, guys, so I'll get my charger. You guys might have noticed that I'm wearing a hat. That's good practice to keep hair out of your food, especially if you're preparing for others. So let me charge it and turn off my notifications. Give me 1 second. How's everyone doing? Is anyone making it, or how? If not, how are the notes and or learning? And how is it? Is it clear?
Everything seems clear. I'm also recording it so everyone can watch it again afterwards. That's why I'm not taking notes. But it's going to be on YouTube in an hour after.
Awesome. Well, I hope this is a good. Hope this can clearly show how to do this. Let's see how much time. How much time do I have? Can you tell me? Oh, I have 20.
Yeah, you still have like 20 minutes. Yes.
Cool. So the next step will be, since we have the tomatoes and onions, all we gotta do is chop the greens, and then we'll go to the avocado. So the greens, since this is not like a in-depth cutting class, basically just cutting it lengthwise. So we have the kale, just gonna start cutting it like that. This one also we want to cut it as thinly as possible, but for time's sake, I'm pretty much cutting it a little differently, a little less finely.
So you cut the stem of the kale?
Yeah, usually even when it's my guacamole, just the stem is the part that you want to cut as thinly as possible. You can even mince this part up, and it's a good texture for for anything. As long as you cut as long as when you cut the stem, you cut it as thin as possible, because then you'll cut through the fiber. So that's why the first time you cut it is the most important. You want to just cut it really thin slices, and then you can mince it afterward. So I like to just give it a few cuts in the perpendicular direction, and a few more cuts the other way, so that there's no big pieces left, no long pieces that will just make your guacamole into spaghetti. Anyway, combine that
Excuse
into
me,
the, yes, here.
is that a kale, a regular type of kale?
Yeah, you can use any kind of kale, but I do recommend if you're getting a taste for it, just to use cilantro or parsley. But you can use any kind of green kale. I'm using red kale, and I'm always using different vegetables to have different flavors. Um, yeah, there's a lot of different suggestions. You can use cilantro, parsley, kale. You can use fennel if you find fennel. You use most herbs, pretty much sage.
Oh,
Um,
thank.
and yeah, all the green herbs. So before we cut open the avocado, I like to have a little bit of lime juice. So I cut one lime. You might want to use two, but this is the part where you customize your guacamole in order to get the flavor you want. So that's why everyone's always going to have a different guacamole. So the one that I'm making now may be different from the one that I sell in my business. And some people like different preferences, but I like to go with anything that's just tastes really good. So you can adjust the lime juice, but first you want to just another thing I do that I always use a juicer, like a citrus juicer, but I'm not going to do that today because it's a small amount. So when you're using a small amount, you can just squeeze it by hand. In here, okay. So this is the bowl that I'm going to use to mash the avocado. So I'm going to put some lime juice. Half of the lime is already basically, I'm just putting a little bit, but not all of the lime juice that I need. I'll put that in later. So once you put a little lime juice in the bowl, I like to mash the avocado into the lime juice so that it stays as fresh as possible. Another thing I like to do is I like to put the avocado in the fridge and put it in the freezer, but not until it's frozen. Just make until it's really cold, so that it keeps everything cold while I'm making it. So I didn't really show you how to open the avocado, but there's other videos on YouTube for that. And then I'll take it out with a spoon. And put it into the mashing bowl. In Mexico, they use mortar and pestle, molcajete, and it's like really giant, and they just mash everything in with it. So the way I like to mash is I really recommend using an avocado masher. I've never seen anything like this, but I got it, and it's the best thing ever. If you don't have an avocado masher, it doesn't say the brand on it. This is what it looks like. If you don't have one, there's also a potato masher. Those are pretty easy to find. I'm going to use the avocado masher today. Let me just mash it like this. See, that's starting to mash. This is the part where you have a lot of personal preference. So you can make a chunkier avocado, or you can make a more flavorful avocado. So the more you mash it, the more you can put in more seasonings and pretty much have the seasoning be all over the place instead of just in some places. So if you like a chunkier avocado, then just mash it very little, because as you mix stuff in, it's just going to keep mashing more and more. I personally like to make it kind of like a puree. So I'll mash it until it's the way that I usually make it.
And right now in the bowl, sorry, Leo, in the bowl right now,
Yes.
there's only avocados and lime?
Yeah, a little bit of lime juice.
Okay.
Let's put a little lime juice just to start it off and keep it fresh. So this is the part you want to start tasting. This is how much I mash it. You can mash it until it's liquid, or you can keep it chunky. Since it has a little lime, it's keeping preserved. So now you want to put more lime juice until it tastes right. Keep in mind, it doesn't have any salt yet, so it's not going to taste as strong. So just keep in mind when you're tasting it and getting it right. But this is an important part where you get the flavor right, because then you basically want to add as much as you can before it's too much. So you want to make it nice and strong so that it has a bite, and it also keeps it fresher the more you put in. But you want to make sure that it's just enough where it doesn't, you want to taste the lime flavor, but you don't want to taste it any more than you taste the avocado. You want to mainly taste the flavor of the avocado and the creaminess. Also, the more that you put in, the less creamy it gets. So this, I think, is the right amount. And also, you also want to put in an amount where it doesn't start getting watery. You can taste it. It should be both citrusy and tart. So now that's mixed in. We can just put in the salt now. We can do the salt until it tastes right. Because we haven't added in the vegetables yet and fruits and tomatoes, we'll add a little more to make it a little stronger than you would want it. Same with the lime juice. You want to get a little strong. And then when you add in the vegetables, it'll become very, very mild. This should be perfect. And this is where you play around, because as you add more salt to it, you'll find that the lime gets stronger as you put more. And if you put more lime, the salt becomes stronger. So just mix it in well, and then we'll just dump in all the rest of the ingredients. So this is all the greens and the tomato and onion as well. So now that I put it in, you can see that it's pretty much overpowering the avocado. Let me see, 1 avocado and 1 tomato. This is a good recipe. It's just you can always, if you use like cilantro, half a bunch is fine, or that's actually a lot. You can use like a third or even a quarter of a bunch of cilantro. But the way I usually make it in this recipe, you're gonna find that it's very chunky. So if you find that your guacamole is like this, you can just have another avocado on hand and just throw it in and then make it until you have the amount of avocado you want. And then you can still add more lime and salt. So this is pretty good guacamole for me. It's definitely extra chunky. It's literally a salad, but the recipe can be adjusted because a lot of things are different sizes. Tomatoes are different sizes. Avocados definitely come very small sometimes, so you'll need 2 in order to get what I'm having here. And then that's it. My final step is actually to put it in jars, because then that's how I preserve it. This is like one of the jars I like to use to keep it preserved. I like just to give it airtight seal.
How long do you think it can last at this point? How long do you think can be safe to eat them?
So the way I do it, you can use a glass or plastic container, and then I'll fill it to the top, and then I'll compress it to that and make sure that you actually have something that's an airtight seal that has very little air in it. And then I would start the timer. It can last about, actually it depends on how much lime juice you put and salt. So it really depends on that. It lasts at least 2 days where it stays fresh when you pack it like this. Put the cover on and really press it in so there's no air bubbles. But then it depends on the lime juice that's actually mixed in with the avocado. So definitely 2 days would be safe. If you put more lime juice and salt, it can last, I would say, 5 days. But the flavor won't be the same after the second day already. So I recommend eating it the same day or the next day. 24 hours. I'm done with the guacamole, so if anyone has any questions, I'd love to answer, especially for anyone else that's watching later. Anyone have any concerns or wonderings?
No, I think it was pretty explanatory. I understood a lot of things with that. And so for this one was 1 avocado, 1 lime, 1 avocado, 1 lime, 1 tomatoes, and one kale.
Yeah, that was one of each, and then kale just use like a quarter of the bunch.
Okay.
And you're using all those other ingredients that amount.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do you put any chili or like a hot powder of some kind?
Yeah, I forgot that part. That was one of the ingredients was hot pepper, and that's an optional ingredient. So you can use a hot pepper, you can mince that up and put it in, or you can use cayenne pepper powder like I have here, and just put like a little bit, but you can put a lot too because the avocado really soaks up the spice. So that was the last ingredient that I forgot almost. You see like how red it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So now it's gonna be really hot. Cool. And that, of course, is customizable as well. I'm gonna get it right. Yeah. More time. Yeah, 5 minutes. I think I was able to make guacamole in 40 minutes, and I hope that you guys should be able to too. Well,
Perfect.
I'll cover this. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. This has been a pleasure. I hope this was very helpful as well. Any yeah.
Thank you so much, Leo.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. So here we are. This is like makeshift cover. Anything else I should say?
That's all.
Yeah. All right. And yeah, feel free to watch this again so you really get it. And enjoy.
Have a good day.
All right. Have a great day. And everyone else too. Bye bye.